Well, we're very excited because we have Bill Myers on the phone here, and he has written several children's books and adult books, and he's also worked with folks on the family on McGee Me and Adventures in Odyssey. So welcome, Bill.
Hi, good chatting with you.
Okay, our first question that we have for you is, what made you decide to become a writer?
That's a good question. I had my life all worked out, and then at about 18, I made a promise to God that I would always say yes to Him, always, regardless of how crazy the request.
Then a few weeks after that, I saw the fourth movie of my life. I had seen Pinocchio and The Parent Trap and Pollyanna, and then I was sitting watching a movie called The Godfather. And I was so astonished at all the violence and the blood and the gore, but even more than that, I was amazed at the way my peers in college were standing up and cheering when people were getting massacred. So I walked out of that theater, just giving God a big piece of my mind, telling Him He better get people involved in the media because there is incredible power to get people to either think right or maybe to think wrong and maybe to think right. So every time I told him he had to do that, it sort of bounced back at me like I was supposed to be one of those guys. It's not like I saw a burning rose bush or got any angelgrams, but I couldn't shake it. And so after about 6 weeks, I finally said, okay, fine, I'll be a movie, whatever they're called. And couldn't find a film school that would take me. I wouldn't take me. I didn't even know how to watch a movie, let alone make one. But eventually I found one over in Europe, went to film school, moved back to the States, came down to Los Angeles to become a rich and famous film director, discovered they already had plenty of those, and proceeded to starve for a while until I was directing a play in Hollywood, and some TV producer came up to me and asked me if I would write for his TV series. Well, I did tell the Lord I could do anything for Him but write. I wasn't being, obnoxious. I just got C's and D's in my one writing class in college, and it would be a waste of his time and mine. But since this TV producer actually offered to pay me money, and since money was kind of necessary to support my eating habit, I said yes. And I wrote the worst TV show in the history of the human race. It was so bad that I threw my tennis shoe at it when I was watching it. And then some publisher heard that there was a, quote, famous Christian TV writer living in Hollywood, and if they could just convince him to take time from his busy schedule of starving, they would really appreciate it. I asked them if they paid. They said yes, so I wrote the world's worst book. And that's kind of how it started, by agreeing to say yes, and then getting a little pressure from heaven in the process.
How did you come to work for Focus on the Family?
I got a call from them. I had just directed a movie for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, and they wanted somebody to create a children's video series for them that was a little out of the box and kind of imaginative. And so that they brought me to the Ritz-Carlton in Laguna Beach, California, and picked my brain for 3 days, and I wound up co-creating a series for them called McGee Me, a video series. So that's how that started. We made friends with Focus from there on, and then Adventures in Odyssey came around because Adventures in Odyssey and McGee were going about the same time. And I said, sure, that would be fun too. So that's how we started doing Adventures in Odyssey.
So where did the idea for McGee Me come from?
I wanted to do something different. At that time, there was no Roger Rabbit or no mixture of animation and live action together. So I wanted to do something different that was just kind of imaginative, but also funny. I noticed that there's a lot of humor missing in Christian storytelling. And humor is a great way to make your point without getting caught preaching. So put those things together. They had done some research. I think they spent 18 months researching, saying that kids 4 to 8 years old wanted animation and kids 8 to 12 wanted live action. Well, you didn't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out how maybe to use both. So that's sort of how McGee came about. McGee was, if you're familiar with the series, is a little obnoxious funny little cartoon character that this kid creates. And McGee was a code word my wife used to use in social party sort of settings, where if my humor started to irritate her or embarrass her, which it does quite a bit, if I heard the phrase, "That's enough now, isn't it, McGee?" The code phrase was, "Sit down and behave yourself or there'll be trouble when we get home." So when we came up with this character, there was only one name we could name him.
That's pretty cool.
Could you tell us how the Mulligan family was created?
I have, well, remember I told you my motto is sort of pretty much just say yes to whatever God says, if I'm sure that he said it. And I kick the tires and spend a lot of time double checking. And so I wanted to pass that on, that motto on. And if you recall, with the Mulligans, that's their family motto, just say yes. So they wound up, I just, sat down and said, well, what would happen? Well, what would happen is they would probably adopt kids and they would probably have a wild animal park. So that's how it happened. But it really started with that whole concept of just saying yes, what sort of adventure God could take you on.
So, from the get-go, when you had the idea for it, did they ask you to play Father Mike Mulligan, or did you sort of volunteer for that?
That's a good question. I don't remember. I do a lot of voiceover work. I'm the voice of Jesus in the NIV audio Bible. So I think that just came about as a natural. What really surprised me was that we were looking for a girl to play my daughter in the series, the blind girl.
Lisa?
Yeah. And my daughter had done some voiceover work, and so I said, look, my daughter's done some voiceover work, but I do not want you to hire her because she's my daughter. I want you to audition her and be real hard on her. And they were, and she passed. So she wound up playing my daughter in the series.
Wow, we didn't know that.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, or boringly enough, depending on your perspective, the woman that played the mother in McGee Me, Vaughn Taylor, who I like a lot, wound up playing my wife in the series.
If I'm correct, earlier, before the Mulligan family was created, you played boyfriend to Zachary Seller's mother, and all three of you eventually moved on to play the Mulligan family.
That could be. They'd bring me in once in a while to do like a guest star sort of thing or a guest appearance. So I don't remember all the other parts that we played, but I remember the Mulligans only because we did so many of them.
Yeah. I was sad to see them go. I wish they had a lot more episodes with them. I really like them a lot.
I did too. The feeling was that the Mulligans were taking over Odyssey. That by going back to the Mulligans, we were losing the focus of Odyssey. So I'm not quite sure what the thinking was behind that, but they're the boss, so I said, okay.
So, what was your favorite episode to write, direct, or act in on Adventures in Odyssey?
I really liked the first one. I liked it only because I was terrified of it. In fact, I think the title is Just Say Yes, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I liked it obviously because of the theme, again, of always saying yes to God. I also liked it because I was so nervous about my daughter. I would rehearse with her at home, and she was awful. She was terrible. And I remember driving into the studio thinking, uh-oh, I have to fire my own daughter. What's that going to do? And then I thought, well, the other thing is I'm a dad, so I should probably be a father before I'm her employer, which means everybody in Focus on the Family is going to hate me because my daughter does such a lousy performance. So I had all these knots in my stomach. And then we get behind the microphone, and she nails it in the first take. It was like she was better than I was. And it just like it First of all, I felt incredible relief, and second of all, I felt a little angry because it's like, why couldn't you do this in rehearsal? So that's my favorite, I think, just because she surprised me so much, and because I like what the theme of the show was.
Will there be any more Wally McDougall books?
Boy, that's another good question. We have 28 out there, which is a ton of books. I wouldn't mind writing some more. There's a lot of other things I want to write. I write grown-up books as well, like Eli and some other books like that I want to write. So we're taking a break right now and seeing what's going on. The series is still selling strong. I saw that it's up to about 2.2 million now, which is huge. So I'm not sure. We are at the moment trying to raise money to turn it into a feature film. So if you know any wealthy money people that want to invest in a kids project, give them my number.
Yeah, that'd be interesting, but I think you'd have to get several stunt doubles because just think of all the accidents.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite books that you've written?
I think, well, starting off with my grown-up books, I like Eli a lot because it's retelling the gospel as if it were to happen today instead of 2,000 years ago. I like it because it makes Jesus more real by putting him into our culture. He suddenly isn't some two-dimensional character that is stuck in the pages of the Bible, but that he really pops up and it's like he's there in your face. I remember I wanted to write the series. The idea behind the series was I was sitting in church and the pastor was sharing the gospel, and I'm sitting there bored. And I'm thinking, come on, Myers, what's wrong with you? This is the most important story in the history of mankind, and you're bored with it? So I kind of wrote Eli initially just to make the gospel come alive like it was the first time I read it. So, we have his birth in the back of a Motel 6 laundry room. We have him and the boys going across the country in a Winnebago. The whole gospel, but as if we're happening in America today. And it suddenly he came alive to me. It was like, oh, he's not a flannel graph Sunday school cutout. He's a real God incarnate, and the sort of stuff he would do would really turn my world upside down. So I like that book a lot, Eli. And then it's, I don't know, after that, it's kind of like asking me who my favorite child is. You don't want to pick on one and get the others all jealous at you. So I don't know. We'll just leave it with Eli for now. And as far as kids' books, boy, that's another good question. I'm doing I like The Incredible Worlds of Wally McDougall a lot. I did a comedy series for girls called TJ and the Time Stumblers, which is, I do like writing comedy. And then I think, we have a new one coming out the fall of 2013 called Truth Seekers. But I think my very most favorite for adult or kids books is something called Imager Chronicles. It's 4 books in this series, and it's these 2 children that travel to different dimensions. The portal, the experiment, the whirlwind, and the tablet are the 4 books in the series. They travel to these different dimensions and learn cool stuff about God and the kingdom of God, but I never use Christian terms, and I try to tell it in a fresh way so that, again, it makes people really pay attention to the great truths that are in Jesus Christ.
Are you working on any new books or projects?
Yeah, the book I'm writing right now, see, we're recording this in June of 2013. The series I'm working on right now for children is called Truth Seekers, and there's a book. And then I'm writing a grown-up book that should come out towards the end of the year called, it's a trilogy, and the first one is called The Last Fool.
All right, and our last question for you today is, do you have any advice for new writers?
I do. Spend time with God. He is so creative that the ideas are just astonishing. Now, they're not astonishing if you just drop by and say, hi, God, see ya. But when you spend time with him, I spend about an hour every morning just kind of reading the Bible and then singing to him and just loving on him and sometimes just being quiet with him. And cool things start to happen when you do that. So yes, you want to practice writing, you want to read good writing, you want to do all that stuff. But the core the inside that makes a great writer is if you're connecting to a great creator. And God's got that department won hands down. And again, let me say, it's not some religious exercise of, oh, now I've read my 2 chapters of the Bible for the day. It's just spending time with him and telling him how much you like him, and then just being still before him and keeping a notebook handy. If you go to my website, which is billmyers.com, you'll see all these books. I've written 119 books right now. I didn't start out to do that, but the ideas just keep coming. And as a result, I keep writing. So that would be my number one thing, is spend time with the Lord, quality time with God. But then, of course, there's the other things like practice writing every day and read good writing and see what makes it good.
All right, that's really good advice. Well, thank you so much, Bill. It's been an honor and a privilege to talk to you and learn some more about Odyssey and other things that you've worked on. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, my privilege. Good talking with you guys.